I've been getting a lot of questions on what my current audio setup is. I used to be a Blue Yeti guy. I had Blue Yeti for about 6 years, and I really liked it. It worked well. It was a great starting microphone for me as I tried to make more quality YouTube content, at least quality sounding YouTube content. Whether or not the quality is good is obviously for you guys to decide. But I liked Blue Yeti because it was simple. You plugged it in and it worked. It was USB powered. I bought a boom arm for it and I was in the game. Now, I did ultimately buy a pop filter for it, and I started using the NVIDIA broadcast tool when it became available years later. That did help quite a bit. But over time, my Blue Yeti did start to suffer some problems. It started to develop this really nasty buzzing and humming sound, and I was told it was a grounding issue. So I bought a powered USB hub that plugged into the wall that was supposed to fix the grounding issue. And while it did make it a little quieter, I still heard it. If you go back and listen to some of my older videos over the last 5 years, you may hear it too. Although I think I did my best to try to kind of tweak the waveform a little bit to disguise it. I did a lot of my recordings through Audacity, and there I would use the compressor functionality. I would boost up treble and bass, and I would try to do my best to mask how I sounded. But in live streams or when I was talking with my friends on TeamSpeak, it was pretty clear. So I finally decided, you know what? It's time. We're going to jump ship on the Blue Yeti and we're going to get something else. And that's exactly what I did. I decided to pick up the M Audio M-Track Solo. Now, this is the cheapest, pretty much. I think Behringer makes one that's a couple dollars cheaper. This is about the cheapest USB audio interface you can buy right now. What this does, this is simply an interface that allows me to take an XLR microphone that I have plugged into this thing and convert it to a USB signal that my computer understands. I do not use this for my headphones or for my monitoring. That is totally done with a separate system. This is solely the interface to get a quality XLR microphone to plug into my computer. And I know a lot of you are going to say, but Jim, they make XLR to USB adapters. And I understand that. But I also understand the quality of those isn't the best. I wanted crisp, clean sound. That was the goal. Crisp, clean sound. So I went ahead during Amazon Prime Day and I picked up the M-Track Solo. The reason I picked up the Solo is because I am using this in the most basic possible configuration. I'm not using the headphone jack. I'm not using the line in for line 2. I am solely using a single line in. The only toggle that I had when I originally bought this was for the input 1 signal to adjust the gain to be able to pick up a microphone. That was it. This will not power high impedance headphones. This will also, by default, record out of one left channel only. So I had to go into Windows and to tell it, hey, record mono, and kind of transmute that into a stereo signal, which I think works very well. But I don't do any kind of audio recordings where I'm playing an instrument or anything like that. It's a single microphone. Speaking of the microphone, I went ahead and I picked up the Shure SM58. I think a lot of people would say this is one of the, if not the most industry type standard microphones in the planet. It has an insane amount of positive reviews. There's videos of this thing being run over by a truck and it still works. It is built incredibly well. I did buy a slight variant on it because I wanted an on-off switch on my microphone. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, you can kind of tweak your USB audio interface to lower the gain or do. I don't want any of that. I just wanted an on-off switch. I prefer to have my microphone off when I'm not recording, and that just made sense to me. So they do make the standard variant that's slightly cheaper that does not have an on-off switch. I also did have to buy, and I didn't post a link to it, I did buy a 6-foot XLR cable. And when I set up both of those things, honestly, everything worked pretty well. I was able to plug my microphone in and get decent audio out to the unit. It had zero interference at all. It was crystal clear, no humming, no buzzing, no nothing. And I really thought, hey, I kind of made it. This is great. I got a really nice microphone, an entry-level USB audio interface, but this is great. This is what I want. This is going to allow me to make content that sounds a lot better. But I noticed as I started to use it more, I had to have the gain completely maxed. And I think I'm a pretty loudmouth guy. So for me to talk and have a hard time getting into the kind of the yellow, if you're thinking like green, yellow, red in terms of your waveforms, that yellow area, I was having a very hard time doing that unless I talked like this and I was playing games like this. And all my friends said, geez, you know, this sounds like an ASMR video. And honestly, that's not comfortable. That's not how I sit. My head moves when I'm talking. Sometimes I'm looking over here. Sometimes I'm looking over here. And I wanted to be able to get a decent gain. I did some research and I found out that the Shure SM58 draws a lot. It doesn't mean power. It just means that the M-Track Solo has a hard time keeping up. So I did make 2 additional purchases. The first was a pop filter, which I don't have linked here, but it's the official Shure pop filter that sits on the top. This it's just like a foam thing that prevents any of the plosives. So when I do the P or the B sound, you don't hear that really loud popping noise. The pop filter does pick it up. But I did pick up a Fethead, and this Fethead is a lifesaver for my setup. This is they also make, and you could see as my customers who also viewed this item, they also make the Dynamite, and there is also the Cloud Lifter. Those are other variants that do the same thing. Which one is better? That's not for me to decide. The Fethead seemed to be a really good solution, and that's the one that I went with. So my solution has the Shure SM58 plugged in an XLR cable into the Fethead. The Fethead then plugs into my M-Track Solo, which plugs via USB into my computer. I know you can move the Fethead closer to the microphone. A lot of people say, well, if the Fethead is closer to the actual microphone, it may record a little bit better. On a 6-foot cable, I didn't notice any distinction between the two, so I wanted it farther away because a lot of times when I'm doing videos, I'm actually holding my microphone out and I'm pacing behind me, holding it out like an interviewer. No one's seeing it because it's just audio voiceover videos, but I like to talk that way sometimes, and I feel I can just stand up and really stretch out my diaphragm and really get energetic about some of the content I put together for you guys. But I did have to turn on phantom power. So I did have to enable the phantom power switch. That is what allows the Fethead to be powered. If the Fethead is plugged in and the phantom power switch is not enabled, microphone doesn't work. It's dead audio. So I had to get that and plug it in. So now I have phantom power on, and I love this setup. This is actually a really, really cool setup. I really enjoy it. It sounds really crisp, really clear, and it wasn't a ton of money to invest. And I think the reason why is because I did go with the cheaper USB audio interface. And because of my particular setup, not worrying about the audio quality. I have a shit stack that is separate from all of this that handles my audio. But a lot of people like to have an all-in-one solution. And honestly, if somebody could come up with a USB audio interface that plugged into the wall, that was powered by a wall, that would allow me to have an amplifier in there to drive high-impedance headphones, something north of 300 ohms or so, I would then be able to use my Sennheiser 650s. I would plug everything into a single slot on my box, and I would be set. Unfortunately, that doesn't work that way. A lot of these are just meant for basic monitoring, so they're low impedance and they really start to trail off anything north of like 150, 175 ohm headsets. So unfortunately, my all-in-one solution didn't work. As soon as I saw that approach, I immediately said, you know what, forget it. Let's go even cheaper. And that's what I went with. Now, there are other knockoff brands, and you can see them if I close my video here for a second. I have looked at some other stuff. They do make absolute generic, like this USB audio interface, which is just a single device. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, this one, I guess, goes with a different spelling of line in, and of some of the other, like direct monitor is direct monitor. I saw this and I was like, I don't mind spending the extra 10 bucks to get something that is not like a total ripoff. Like, I've never heard of this brand, and it has some decent reviews. So I guess if you have a couple bucks laying around and you want to experiment, maybe you'll get a good quality product. I don't know. I knew M Audio was recognized. I know they have decent driver support on Windows. It's pretty easy to use. There's really not a lot to configure on it, and it's kind of a recognized brand, even though this is the lowest tier I could get. But I thought it sounded pretty good. A lot of people have been asking me, and I wanted to do a quick video talking about my setup. The only other thing that I should mention was I am using my existing boom arm from my Blue Yeti. So it's that same toggle with the metal screw that plugs in right into the bottom of the microphone holder, and it works very, very well. So if you are interested in dabbling into XLR audio and you want that next step, and to me, it does sound better than the Blue Yeti by a country mile. I think it sounds better. But if you're interested in kind of expanding your horizons a little bit and trying a different audio solution, you may want to consider something like what I did. Of course, you could spend more money. Of course, you could recommend different USB audio interfaces that may have better features or allow for dual channel support or whatever. But just simply from being a YouTuber, talking into my microphone, or playing games at night with the boys on TeamSpeak, this solution works phenomenally for me. Just make sure you are looking into that Fethead, because if you don't want your gain completely maxed, you're going to want that. It's going to lower your gain to like 5 or 6, which gives you way more headroom should you ever want to record in a different manner. Hope you found this video interesting and informative. I'm going to put it in my audio guides playlist. So if you have any other questions on headphones or the shit stack or some of the other solutions that I've used to capture high quality audio and to hear high quality audio, check out that playlist below. I think you're going to find some interesting things in there. That's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.